Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for the latest episode of the Mulliner and Musgrove Show with him, Sam Mulliner, and me, Andrew Musgrove. Plenty to talk about in the world of football. But this is actually going to be an episode heavily weighted on Newcastle United because two of the points we're going to be discussing are all about the club that we love. We're also going to talk about Ruben Amorim's time at Manchester United and what a car crash that has been, and Mikel Arteta as well, losing his mind a little bit as the wheels fall off his season at Arsenal. First things first, Sam, welcome back to the show. How are you keeping you well?
Yes, I'm very good. I'm very good. What a win that was on Sunday. That really was the biggest game of the Premier League season for us so far, and yeah, mightily relieved. We got the W there over Chelsea.
Wasn't pretty, was it? But the points at this type of this end of the season or this
Oh
point of
yeah,
the season is what matters.
who cares? I don't care how the win gets achieved. It's just get the 3 points, get out. Doesn't matter. Um, Obviously, an early goal always helps. And then, I mean, if I was a Chelsea fan, well, if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd feel physically sick. But if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be pretty annoyed with Nicholas Jackson. He arguably has cost them Champions League football with a stupid elbow. It was always going to be overturned and be a red card with that look he gave Botman before he led with his elbow as well. Just what? It's just the stupidity of some footballers sometimes is just incredible.
Yeah. And bearing in mind, he's got a contract until 2033. So they've got a lot of time to fall back in love with him. But yes, you are correct. If you're a Chelsea
That's
fan,
almost as long as your contract with Reach PLC.
I mean, I'm coming up to, in fact, I've already hit a decade here at Reach PLC. It's been a long
Incredible,
time. Coming up nearly to a decade running this wonderful podcast as well.
incredible.
And thankfully, Newcastle United are decent these days because when we begun, they were far from that. And we got a lot to
Mm.
celebrate now, though. So long may it continue. But yeah, Nicholas Jackson's really stupid red card. Maresca not very happy at all, understandably, but it puts Newcastle in a really good position when it comes to the qualification for the Champions League. But Sam, you're not sitting as comfortably as maybe some other Newcastle United fans are when it comes to the Champions League.
No, I'm not. But I mean, that might just be my nature. I am a bit of a nervous Nelly when it comes to things like this. Um, I mean, if you'd have told me in August when we were kind of stuttering to wins at Wolves and Spurs, it was these wins were really being ground out. And if you'd have told me come May, mid-May, that if you win your last two games of the season, then you'll finish second, I would have called you a name. But yeah, what a turnaround! And the fact is, Eddie Howe keeps achieving this with a threadbare squad is phenomenal. And yeah, I'm still wary. If we go into Everton at home on the last day of the season needing a win, I would be very nervous. But that might just be my nervous nature, as I say. But look, we're in a fantastic position, and whatever happens, it's still been a phenomenal season.
And you didn't even mention the fact we've won a cup as well, which we would have just taken as
Well,
the one
yeah,
thing to achieve this season. And yet here
I,
we are.
I I did infer that with the phenomenal season comment, but yeah, that was the question of kind of since takeover, really, wasn't it? Would you rather a trophy or top four? And now here we are, we've got the trophy. So what's the reaction like if we don't get top four or top five? Now, of course, we are very, very strong favourites to achieve that. Sat nicely in third. Um, our run in the final two games is slightly tougher than the chasing pack, I would argue, though. And but when you saw, like, let's take Aston Villa for an example, who I couldn't believe got the win against Bournemouth on Saturday tea time. I was fuming with Bournemouth's performance in that game. You would have looked at their fixtures at the start of the season and thought, "Oh, Man United, Spurs, that's a tricky little running. That's a bit nasty." But then you look at them this season, and it's the easiest running of the lot. It's quite incredible, really. So there's every chance they're going to get 6 points. So we do definitely need. We can't be relying on results elsewhere. We do need that one win, whether it comes on Sunday at the Emirates or we do grind it out on the final day at home to Everton.
Yeah, but I think it's going to come against Arsenal at the Emirates, and I think it'll be Everton as well, because Newcastle at home seem to be a little bit of a different beast. But it's interesting that you mentioned grinding out those results at the back end of last year when it wasn't going particularly well for Newcastle or Eddie Howe. It actually seems, I think, in part in recent weeks, the results and the wins have been there, but Newcastle haven't exactly been brilliant. They haven't been their flowing selves. I mean, against Chelsea on Sunday, they were good in the first half, but obviously we saw the way the second half played out. And yes, there was reasons for that. The tactical switches that Maresca kept making, and Eddie Howe had to kind of follow him down the path. And obviously the red card changed things, but it doesn't feel like Newcastle United are at their top level, and yet here we are, potentially, finishing second in the league.
It's incredible, really, isn't it? Because we've probably only had 2 really good spells in the season, which was obviously one around Christmas time, which was a welcome change of pace for the festive season, and obviously the game surrounding the cup final, which was the best time of my life. But yeah, it's been quite. But that's what good teams do, don't they? They grind out results when, back in the day, we wouldn't have got a win. We probably wouldn't have even got a draw. I mean, there's every chance we may have lost that game back in the day in that circumstance against Chelsea. But, we've got some very, very talented players. The injuries, unfortunately, are starting to stock up again towards the end of the season, as they did when we finished fourth a couple of years ago. But going to the Emirates feeling very, very confident is an odd feeling as well. I think the potential change of system. Obviously, we don't know how Sven Botman is following last week's game, but the change of system certainly worked against Arsenal when we last employed it. So we could go there, as you say. No Marino for Arsenal as well, and as you say, Arteta's lost his head, not for the first time.
Yep, and we'll talk more about Arteta later in the show. But we're going to start with really the big news of last week. And of course, it's no surprise that it continues to be the main talking point when it comes to Newcastle United. And that is the proposal to change the club crest, to change the club badge. It doesn't matter which way you read the statement, it's going to happen. So this, to me, isn't a vote or consultation on whether you want the badge to change or not. I read it as it is going to happen. This is a consultation on what you want to see change or what you'd be comfortable with changing when it comes to the club crest. So much to talk about, and when it comes to this news, Sam, first off, just talk to me about your initial feeling when that news broke on, I think it was Friday, wasn't it, last week?
Yeah, I think it stinks. I think the timing of it was appalling. I think their reasoning behind it was appalling, and I think it's totally unnecessary. And I just think the whole thing stinks. Um, the reasoning that it's a difficult badge to print in this day and age is absolutely pathetic. It really is. And if Adidas are struggling that much, then they need to change kit manufacturer, because I just don't buy it. It's honestly, it's infuriating. I don't see the need to change it. I mean, it looks all right on my shirt. It doesn't look like there's any errors on there or any difficulty has been managed. It was all right mass producing it in the 90s. But I read it the same as you, that they are changing it, and it's a consultation about how you want the new badge to be, as opposed to whether or not you want to keep the badge as it is or not.
Well, I will just say that obviously Adidas and Newcastle United are not on the episode to defend themselves. They've put out their reasons, or Newcastle have rather, for the change in badge that it is difficult to replicate. It's a bit of a difficult design. I mean, I look at that and I say, well, look, we've got to trust the club in what they're doing and the path they're going to go down with this badge change. I understand it's going to be emotional. Of course it is, because to people like you and I, Sam, it's all we've ever known. But we also have to consider that change in Newcastle United's badge was something that just happened during the 70s and 80s. This is the fourth badge, the fifth if you count the special 125-year one. So, to people of a different generation, a new badge isn't all that much of a something to get used to. For us, of course, it is. But I look at what the club have said, and
Did
they
you watch
say
the video on the survey?
I haven't taken the video because I'm not a member, so I haven't been able to watch the video, take the questions, and I will get to the survey in a moment, and you can share your experience of it. But just in terms of what the club have said, we have to, like I said, trust them. We have to take them at face value, and if they say it's difficult to replicate, then I trust them in what they're saying. And if it means going down to maybe a circular crest, and that means that they can, it allows them to replicate the badge easier on marketing, on other products, and that results in more revenue and income, then that's good for the club. And I know a lot of people say, how on earth does a badge result in more income and more revenue? But if it's holding the club back in mass production, then it will be holding them back, and it will be stopping maximum revenue coming in. So I'm on the side of they've got very little wrong so far, and I'm just going to trust them on this.
No, I call bull plop on your reasoning there. I really do. I don't buy it. Liverpool's isn't circular. Why has it got to be circular?
Well, no,
And
but
the
what I mean, the circular design, that's a little bit irrelevant to the point I was making.
No, it's not
You know,
irrelevant. It's very relevant because if you watch the video, as I'm sure season ticket holders and members have watched, then a lot of the examples in that video used were circular badges, Inter Milan, Man City, and how their badges have developed over the recent times. Um, I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I think it's a load of crap. I like our badge. I think it's unique. It's brilliant. I get that there are generations of supporters out there that have gone through crest changes before, and yeah, I like the retro crest on this season's third kit. I've no issue with that. I just feel it very unnecessary for the specific reasons they're giving. I just do not buy it at all. I don't feel any need to trust the powers that be for matters like this. They've obviously done exceptionally well on the pitch and getting things right with Eddie Howe and kind of navigating PSR and not panicking, taking their time with things, and kind of a slow, sustainable build, and this, that, the other. But if the badge is so hard to replicate, that hasn't stopped them producing 9 different versions of various clothing ranges throughout the season.
but what I would say to you, looking at the shirt that you've got, and I've actually just bought this shirt in the last week because it's on sale in the club shop.
Mm,
But I don't like the badge on there. I don't like
why?
that because it's like kind of, how would you describe it? Go on, feel the badge and tell us how you describe it.
No, I mean, to do stuff like this, it would be kind of a late night kind of affair. It's not. It doesn't feel on thing. It kind of feels like rubbery in a way, which kind of doesn't really add to the fact of the late night metaphor. But it's. I don't have an issue with it. I don't mind it. It's
I don't,
kind of like
I don't like that kind of. I don't know what the
it
right word is.
is kind of like a rubbery feel to it, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that material in which the badge has been put onto the shirt. What I want to go back to how it used to be, where it was embroidered into absolutely every bit of memorabilia, kit, hat, whatever it is. I think that takes it up to another level. And maybe that's what the club are suggesting, that actually it's a little bit difficult to do. You've got to remember as well that this badge was designed back in the 80s when it was hand drawn. So maybe that hasn't transferred over into the modern era. Let me just read out what the club have said in their statement, which was released last week. Where's the main bit? This isn't a decision we take lightly. We love our crest. It's iconic and has stood us through unforgettable triumphs and testing times. But it was created in a different era. Its intricate design doesn't always translate well into today's digital world, and it's difficult to reproduce it clearly and consistently. As football and the world changes, so too must the symbol that unites us. This isn't about walking away from our past. It's about carrying it forward with pride. The crest is part of our story. It's on our shirt. It's inked in our skin. It deserves thoughtful evolution shaped by the voices of the people who love it, and they will be taking a refine and revive approach to whatever it is with a minimal change, which is going to be interesting. I'll ask you about that in a moment. But look, it's an emotive one. It's split the fan base straight down the middle. But sometimes change is good, right?
I don't know. I think the last bit of that is just that statement you read there is just lip service. I would turn it round to you. You're the journalist. In your journalistic mind, you've got an office full of hacks the other side of that door there. I know what it's like there. I've been to Chronicle Towers. Why? What does your journalistic mind? What questions would you be putting to that statement?
I would like to know what happens when they redesign it in terms of what constraints have been put on them so far, in terms of it not being easy to replicate in a digital world and what have you. What's the end game? So what do we see that they haven't been able to do with this current design that comes from changing the badge? And I think if they can get that out, which I'm sure they might be doing this Wednesday at the consultation, it might appease some people. You know, if they can see hard evidence of the benefits to come to a badge update, then I think a lot of people who are angry and upset at this might feel a little bit easier at saying goodbye to what the badge we've known for 37 years.
Yeah. And on top of that, it would depend on what the new one looks like.
Indeed.
Because if it's an embarrassment, then the reaction is just not going to be very good at all. And I just find it very hard to believe in 2025 they're struggling to replicate a badge that was 37 years old. With great difficulty. The biggest and best sports manufacturer in the world supplies our current kits. I just don't. I can't. That's the bit I'm struggling to get my head around. I don't understand it. That's what makes my cynical head just say, "Well, twaddle."
Well, again, obviously Newcastle and Adidas aren't there aren't here to answer those points. And I'm sure they would come back and say, well,
Yeah,
look,
and don't
or
get me
Newcastle at
wrong.
least come back and say,
Don't get me
what they have
wrong.
to.
I don't like my kind of opinions or whatever. I don't want to criticize the club because things are great. It's been so brilliant since the takeover. It's been just epic in so many ways, on and off the pitch. And they've done so much right and so much good stuff. It's just my kind of like you say. I mean, I've signed up for the consultation on Wednesday via digitally because I can't get up there due to work commitments the following day or whatever. But yeah, I'll be on there digitally, and look, I'll be all ears. I'm open minded, but from what I've been presented with so far as a fan, that's where I've come to the conclusion that it stinks. Now, whether that is because the way they've worded certain things or because of the kind of reasons that they've not really gone into, if they present, like you say, hard evidence, then look, I'm all ears, but I will have proper questions to ask. And I don't think, or I certainly hope, but judging on previous kind of consultations gone by and with other clubs or whatever, fans don't get a chance to push back and really ask the difficult questions. So I'll be interested to see whether that happens or not, or whether kind of the press pack gets a chance to ask a Darren Eales or a Peter Silverstone, just like the nooks and crooks of the situation. But yeah, I'm all ears, but I'm very, very skeptical.
Well, look, I think Newcastle United obviously are one of the few teams not to changed their badge. People say Liverpool haven't changed it, but they have come out with a new badge to help with the marketing side of things. This is just modern day football. You know, this is an overarching point about the game. it's unfortunately built on money and marketing. And if Newcastle United believe, and obviously, they have to be questioned, they have to be held to account. But if they genuinely believe that the current design is holding them back in some way when it comes to that, and a redesign will help them, and obviously we need that hard evidence as I spoke about, then like I say, I trust them in that decision. And also, you talk to people and they say, well, we're there. If we didn't have to do this, if we really felt we didn't have to do this, we wouldn't do it. Look at the reaction and look how divided it's been. It's an absolute minefield to walk through when it
Yeah.
comes to changing this badge. Anyone who's listening or watching this episode who thinks the club have just done this easily, they say that it's not a decision we come to lightly. That is 100% genuine, because they will have been and they are well aware of what happens when you click publish on that press release.
Yeah.
Everything just explodes up, because you'll have 30% of people not that fussed. You'll have 20%, a little bit upset, but I can see the reason. And then you'll have a full-blown 50% of people who are dead set against it. And it's such a crucial part of the season. You don't want that distraction. But the bottom line is they feel they need to do it. There's genuine reasons behind it. Look, you've got to think about it. Everybody wants an easy life, really. Everybody wants an easy life. It's going so well on the pitch, as you mentioned. They haven't done this just for the giggles. Do you know what I mean? There's reasons behind it.
Yeah, I get that. No pressure on the person who's designing the new badge.
Well, I mean, Sam,
they've
I
not
think,
got an easy life.
no, but I think it'll just go very similar to the first 80s badge, the circular crest for me, with a magpie, Castle Keep, River Tyne, and Newcastle United Football Club around the outer circle. I think that's what it'll be, personally.
I just so happen to have the this season's home shirt to hand. So when you say that, obviously there's this little fellow
On the back, yes.
at the back of this season's home shirt, which is pretty much what you've described.
I could see that being the badge. Bit of colour, maybe a bit more colour in it somewhere.
We don't need colour, does it? Because it's literally black and white. So they'll go
Well,
monochrome.
was the old one fully black and white? But anyway, I think that's what it'll be.
You think that's going to be the new badge?
Yeah. Well, it's the old badge. It'll be the old new badge. Yeah.
The new badge. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like that.
Interesting. I think a new design then will obviously appease a few if it's good. I mean, I don't count the 125-year one. That's neither here nor there. So I'm just counting the 4. Yeah, I don't know. Like you say, it is a minefield. I thought the timing of it wasn't overly clever, though. I think that was the kind of biggest issue. I'll be very interested to hear what they have to say. I don't know. I just it's a tricky one, because we are an emotive bunch as a people, as a fan base, and we do kind of like tradition. But again, we've had change of badges before, but I just, like, loads of people have had tattoos and stuff of the crest, and
but loads of people have had tattoos of the old badges. And look, if you're on YouTube or you're on social media and you're watching or listening to this, get into the comments or get on social media. Tell us your opinion about the badge change, but also let us know what generation of fan you are, because I'm really intrigued to know how different fans of different ages feel about this. Because I reckon if you're born post 1988 and it's all you've ever known, I think you'll be a little bit more attached to this badge. But if you're born prior to that and you were 2025 when this badge came along, you're like, well, actually, it's the third badge I've seen.
Well, I'm 89, so
You look
as
at
in
it.
the year that I was born, not my actual age, smart ass. But yeah, so yeah, I do feel an affinity with the badge, and I love the badge. I think it's brilliant. I think it's one of the best out there. And the examples that have been used in the video, like the new Inter Milan one, is horrendous, and like the Juventus one as well was a kind of non-circular example used. I just think they're bland.
Yeah. Well, let us know in the comments your thoughts. I'm going to ask you about the survey questions just in a moment. But is there kind of an argument that a lot of people are scared of change? I want to read you this comment that someone posted on the original video I did on the news of the badge change. And Andrew's posted this morning. People do not like change. I get it, but everyone needs to evolve. Everything needs to evolve. If we want success worldwide, we must adapt to the times. The club and everything it represents does not live and die with the badge. It's an important part, but our amazing club is more than that.
Okay, but a change of badge isn't going to make us win the Premier League.
No, but keeping the badge isn't going to make you win the Premier League either.
No, it's not. So what's the point?
Well, again, it goes back to the club's claim that it's difficult to replicate and doesn't always transfer well into the digital world, which was very similar to what Liverpool said about their updated badge, and that was about making it quality enough to put into small spaces, i.e., on the mobile phones or whatever digital device you may use. So other clubs are doing this. They're looking more than just on the jersey. There is a whole world out there marketing streams that need to be tapped up, and this I think without obviously, and I'm sure we'll get the full reason on Wednesday and as time goes on. But in my head, that's I think a strong reason behind it is that there are potentially revenue streams that they've been unable to maybe get the maximum value out because of this intricate design, as they put it. But again, I'm all ears. Look, I understand the upset at it. I love this badge. I think it's dominant. It's probably the most standout badge in the Premier League. But at the
Well, that was
same
going to be my
time,
question to you. What club crests do you like aside from our one? It
I,
doesn't have to be Premier League centric.
I don't really take too much notice, if I'm honest. I mean, I'm not even going to try and BS my way through that answer, to be quite honest with you. I'm not someone who kind of looks at badges and go, yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, people know my love for Burton Albion. That's a very strange badge. I mean, their mascot's very strange, to be quite honest with you. But that's kind of a weird badge of a man kicking a ball, but the man is kind of drawn around a bee. It's a bit of a strange one. Go and have a look if you have the time. But again, this kind of it goes into why I'm not kicking up too much of a fuss about it, because to me, I love it. But is it going to stop me supporting Newcastle United? Is it going to stop me dancing around like a
No, of
lunatic
course
when they
it's not.
win the FA Cup next season or the season after when the badge is on the shirt? The first season it's on the shirt. No, it's just a badge. And when we look back in 30, 40 years, Sam, at our memories, and we'll still be doing this podcast, talk about the badge and
Will
whatever
we?
will be, hopefully, we'll, or whatever weird platform will be available then, we'll not be thinking about the badge. We'll be thinking about all the great memories, the titles
Yeah.
and the great campaigns. And I think for me, it's just about looking at the big picture. But I'm not going to tell anyone how to think, because everyone's opinion is valid. Just on the server then, before we move on, a lot of people are saying wasn't a great survey. It seemed to them, and again, the club would probably argue differently because it is an independently run survey, but it seemed to some to be heavily weighted towards changing the badge.
Yeah, I'm in full support of the statement that Nust, the letter that it sent to the club. I thought, I don't think it was a well worded survey at all, because it was enticing you to, well, you could maybe kind of reason it be that it was kind of worded as such to maybe entice you to go along with the fact that an updated badge would be required, but it just left a bit of a grey area if you wanted to keep the badge as is. There was room for you to kind of add on your little comments or whatever, which I did, to just say keep the crest the same. But yeah, I don't think it was particularly well worded, to be honest.
The NUST, which is a Newcastle United Supporters Trust, sent a statement or a letter to the club following the release of the survey and said to comply with FA rules, we strongly urge you as a club to provide a new survey written in a neutral tone and to include an option for supporters to indicate that they do not wish to pursue any change at all. We appreciate that the club has shared its concerns regarding the current crest with supporters. However, as a crest is recognised as a recognised heritage asset and a vital symbol that unites our city, we simply ask that the consultation process strictly adheres to FA guidance. By doing so, we are confident the club will receive valuable and valid feedback from supporters to help guide this important decision. We look forward to continuing this dialogue with you. And you can see the full statement on Chronicle Live on the NUST website as well. I don't think the club have responded. If they have, I haven't seen it. But again, the club, I would imagine, they're not here to answer for themselves, but I would imagine they'd come back and say that they don't believe it's in an unneutral tone. Is that the right word? Unneutral? Yeah. Non-neutral? You know what I'm saying, ladies and gents.
The fact that they haven't responded to Nust isn't a good look either. Let's hear some facts on Wednesday, and that's what needs to be presented, and then maybe another survey should come out after we've heard their reasoning behind it and the evidence to back up their claims, as to why this has to happen, and then we can have another survey of it with that option as well, having been more informed.
Well, let's see what happens on Wednesday at this consultation workshop, and hopefully we get a little bit more information. We'll move on to our second point of the episode then, Sam, and we're going to talk about Manchester United and Ruben Amorim and what a bad job he's doing at Manchester United. It has not gone swimmingly at all. Since his first game on November the 23rd, 2024, he has a win percentage record of just 24%, which is just unbelievable. They've won just 6 of their 25 league matches, drawing 6 and losing 13. They've conceded in that time 41 goals. They've conceded 1.6 goals per game. Have the 6th worst record in the league in front of goal, failed to score in 10 of their 25 Premier League games, find the net 30 times. He has, over the weekend, following a defeat to West Ham, come out again and used the word embarrassed. It's a difficult watch in some ways in terms of him, because I think he is one of the best young managers around. I said at the time, though, I thought it was a big gamble for Manchester United because it either goes like Mourinho at Chelsea or goes like AVB when he left Porto and that didn't work out. I think, did he go to Chelsea first or Tottenham? I think he went to Chelsea first. Yeah, didn't work out there. And look, he didn't want to be here until the summer anyway. They forced him into that gig, essentially. That was always a bad start to one of the toughest jobs in world football. The squad needs a total overhaul. They've not got the money to do that. And the results on the pitch just have been awful. My only criticism of him, and again, this is looking from the outside in, but watching the interviews, reading the interviews, there's not many elements of that club that he has not thrown under the bus publicly, which I don't think helps him at all. And he's not necessarily wrong in what he's saying. I've seen a lot of Man United fans say this, like, he's not wrong in what he's saying about the criticism of the culture or some of the players, but is it really the right thing to be doing in public, especially when the results and performances are as bad as they are?
Long may it continue.
Yeah, I mean, don't
Long may
get
it
me wrong.
continue.
I'm loving it because it's Manchester United. But, that aside, is it the right thing to do by Ruben Amorim to be throwing nearly every element of that club under the bus?
Probably not, showing a bit of inexperience. We saw things like for a team that was in a similar position to Manchester United in Wolverhampton Wanderers when Gary O'Neill got sacked. That was when it started becoming me, the manager, and them, the players, the club, the staff, whatever. And then you've had it. You've had it. You're either in it together. You're either all in or you're all out. I think it's very, very funny. On one hand, on the other hand, if you're kind of hoping Man United give us a helping hand by beating Aston Villa, then you are urinating into a breeze. It's just not going to happen. You would have looked at that running, as I say, for Villa before the season started, and thinking, "Oh, that's a tricky end to the season for them." But now you're thinking that's an absolute dream if you're Aston Villa, facing the two sides in the worst Europa League final known to man. It's staggering how a team could finish 17th in the Premier League and qualify for the Champions League. It's hilarious in a way, but it's just utterly pathetic in another sense. But in terms of Amorim himself, the big test will be how can he overhaul the squad in the summer and get the players in to fit his system of play, and also get the players out for kind of value for them really. Because if they don't win the Europa League, which I think they probably will because it's Spurs in that they play, but should they not, obviously no Champions League, no European revenue whatsoever, they're going to be in a sticky situation, which again would be very funny indeed because no sympathy whatsoever. We got no sympathy off them at all for the Mike Ashley years, and obviously they were very much supportive of Steve Bruce because he's their guy. Yeah, it's just very funny, and Amorim may have turned it round, or he'll be sacked by Christmas. It's one of them. It's just an absolute stain from top to bottom, akin to when we had Mike Ashley at the top.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, like I say, because it is
Oh, it's great.
Manchester United. Since February the 26th, they've only beaten Ipswich and Leicester. I mean, I had to check this stat because that's just bizarre. They've won just 4 games since the turn of the year.
Well, their
The
place in the table represents that, so
yeah,
that shouldn't be a big surprise, really.
yeah, no, it shouldn't, because they are awful. This quote though from Amram was quite interesting. I actually agree with him. He said, "I don't know what is best, if it's playing in the Champions League or not. Obviously, the winners of that Europa League final will get Champions League football for next season." And I guess this applies to Tottenham as well, though. Although their squad is better, I think, than Manchester United. They probably just need the right
Is
manager, which I
it?
don't think. Yeah, I think it probably is. I think if the right manager came in at Tottenham, I'm not saying I don't think they'd be battling for Champions League football next season, but I think they would do better. I think they've got a better squad than Manchester United, and I think Ruben
Yeah,
Amorim.
I think you're probably right. Actually,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, well, actually, I'll make a point on the summer in a moment. But yeah, that quote there from him about the Champions League. Whoever wins it really, but we'll focus on Manchester United. If they win it and they get into the Champions League, it's going to be embarrassing, isn't it?
Embarrassing for who?
Well, Manchester United.
No, because they're in the Champions League and
Yeah,
they're
but they're going to
thinking,
get beaten every week against Europe's elite
yeah,
sides.
but they've had their worst season in modern history, and they've still qualified for the Champions League, a competition that they would have won only because they won the FA Cup after finishing out of the European places in the Premier League the season prior to that, at our expense, nonetheless. But yeah, I don't think they'll care. I don't think they'll be embarrassed. They've got no shame about them. So what? And to be honest, they shouldn't have with stuff like that. If you get a Champions League place, you take it.
Well, in that case, then does that make his comments incorrect? Again, the wrong thing to be saying.
Ugh, doesn't matter.
This is what because when you look at him, like he's very negative. He looks like a beaten man. It's just you said they're sacked by Christmas if he doesn't turn it around. I could see him even if he wins the Europa League. I could see him going in the summer because it just doesn't feel like the right fit. And I think if I'm Ruben Amorim, what I'm doing is I'm going to Sir Jim Ratcliffe as soon as that season ends, and I'm wanting it, down on the table. What am I being given this summer? Because that squad just does not fit the way he wants to play. He's too stubborn to change his formation and his approach. So if you're going to back him, you really need to back him. But I think they're just going to have to be honest and say, well, actually, we can maybe afford 1, 2 top players. If someone comes in and pays big money for Marcus Rashford, you might get a third, possibly a fourth. But there's not a lot of players in that squad where you can get big money for. Not really enough to anyway to put you on a big spending spree. And if he doesn't get the backing or a promise of a backing at the end of the season for this summer transfer window, I would just walk away. I would just walk away because
Yeah,
I think his
I,
reputation's still intact enough that he can get a good job elsewhere and rebuild.
Yeah, but even if he's sacked, he can still get a decent job elsewhere because he's still young enough, and you put that down to just a bad experience at a club that's an absolute mess from top to bottom. If he wins the Europa League, I can't see him going. If he doesn't, then there's maybe an argument for that. But then you're playing a game of who blinks first, really, because Manchester United had to spend a lot of money replacing Ten Hag for Amorim and all of his staff at Sporting. So they're probably going to be owed a lot of money if they're sacked as well, and that's what is kind of to a lesser extent the situation with Steve Bruce. The managers don't want to walk away without getting that mammoth payoff. And if you were in that situation, you'd be exactly the same. Let's not play games. Um, so yeah, it's an interesting one, but it could be a case they'll have to sell to buy. But I'm expecting them to beat Spurs in the final, and they'll house their way into the Champions League once again, and they'll think Man United are back again, and they'll think they can sign Tonali and Isak and whoever else they've been linked with. But yeah, they're paying for years and years and years of poor recruitment, whether it was Ed Woodward, Dan Ashworth, or the bike guy, and whoever's in now. It's just awful. They've got very little in that final third that worries you. They thought Delict was a great bit of business, but failed to remember that Delict lost his place to Eric Dyer at Munich. So that's not strong form. Um, I like the signing of Yaro and Agate. I think they're good signings. But yeah, surrounding them, it's pretty bleak, but it's very funny.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. From one manager who's having a bad time of it to another, Mikel Arteta, and this is another.
Can we not do this next? I don't want to kind of poke the bear at Arteta when we play them this week. If we beat them on Sunday, then I were more than happy to get as stuck in as you want to that clown.
I think
But
we've got to talk about him though, because even if we don't talk about him and connect him to the game on Sunday, which I'm happy not to do, we can not talk about his bizarre top 6 comments and all that. But what we do have to talk about is the other strange things he's saying. I mean, getting beat off PSG and claiming that they were the best, Arsenal were the best side in the Premier League and in the Champions League and the best side in the competition. He is a man who is desperate for success. He knows he's not been successful. He's spent a lot of money. He's been there a long time. I think he's on borrowed time now. I really,
interesting.
really do. Is he going to get the boot? I don't think he'll get the boot in the summer, but I think next season is his final season without any silverware. If he doesn't get a cup, then I think he's gone. he's a very bizarre character, is Mikel Arteta. And right now, he is struggling with Arsenal season falling apart.
Is it, or is it classic deflection tactics like a Mourinho?
No. I mean, he might well be trying to
I'm just
be.
playing devil's advocate,
No, I get
because
that.
I think it's a valid point to kind of assess that because we're not talking about the frailties in that squad. We're now solely focusing on their manager, which maybe is what he wanted all along. Whether it's the BS excuses of the Carabao Cup ball, remember that, and so on and so forth. It's kind of working because we're not criticizing any member of their squad.
Do you think he's actually saying all these daft things on purpose then?
I think there's an argument to be had that he is.
I don't know if he's that clever. I think he's genuinely just staring down the barrel of gun, really, and thinking, "What on earth do I do next?" Because my season's just falling apart.
Um.
I genuinely think he's rattled.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not arguing with that. Of course, he's rattled. He would have been very, very disappointed against PSG because they beat them in the group stage, didn't they?
Mm.
Very convincingly so. But PSG have kind of grown this season without those egos that they've got rid of since the likes of Neymar and Mbappe and what have gone, um, and Dembele, who has finally shown some promise. I always used to criticise him very, very harshly because just awful player that was all speed, but he's actually starting to show glimpses of the potential that he has now. He's had a phenomenal season, and PSG are bringing through great young players like Desiree Doué, who they bought, who was another player on my list that I highlighted on social media and on NFTV 18 months ago, something like that. And then they've got likes of homegrown talent like Zaire Emery as well, who's going to be a midfield dynamo. But yeah, in terms of Arsenal, everyone knows they need a striker, and they failed to address it. I mean, the striker is the hardest kind of player to recruit, isn't it? But focusing on Isak, which we all know is a catastrophic waste of time, there's plenty of alternatives around. That you've got Osman kicking his heels on loan at Galatasaray because Napoli don't want him anymore. You've got other young talents around Europe like a Sesko or something like that. What, and this is the same for the other clubs. Why the focus on Isak when you're not going to get him?
Yeah, and there'll be criticism of Arteta and the transfer chiefs for not going out and getting a striker in January, which could have made a difference when it comes to the title race, although probably not. I mean, there was a really interesting discussion on the Monday Night Club on Five Live on Monday between Chris Sutton and Mark Chapman and the rest. And they pinpointed an article, and I can't remember who wrote it or where it was from, but it basically saying that Arteta and Arsenal are kind of like a team who can't handle the unpredictability of football. You know, when you get a red card or you get an injury or a bad decision, you know, you can't predict that happening. You know, that is something that'll just come out of the blue. And he, as a manager, and those players as a squad, can't seem to handle that. Like if everything was planned and they knew how it was going to go, kind of, you know, they'd be fine because he's very meticulous. But there seems to be a shift when something just comes out of the blue and surprises them. I mean, do you think that's fair?
I think there's something in that. I don't think they've coped at all well without Gabriel. Um, I think that is a really telling absence for them. A lot more telling than when they missed Saka for a few months. Missing Gabriel, you see frailties start to appear in Saliba's game of late. So I don't think they've coped with that very well. I thought they coped all right without a striker, without Havertz, and Marino did a good job playing as a bit of a false nine or whatever. But obviously he's suspended. for when we play them on Sunday. I don't know. I just think there's probably a bit of a lack of depth in their squad of real quality to challenge the way they would have liked to have done, because Liverpool have pretty much been given a free rein at the title this season. Because of frailties in Arsenal, because of a huge dip in form and a kind of transitional time for Manchester City. They'll be spending big this summer, I have no doubt. And the fact that Arsenal could potentially lose second place is mind-boggling, really.
Do you think there's an expectation that they put on themselves? Again,
Yeah.
another phrase that was used was like there's a feeling that Arsenal and Arteta feel like football owes them something, which I totally buy
Uh,
into. I can totally see that. Like there's this kind of, don't know what the right word is, and entitlement, perhaps.
Entitlement, delusion, perhaps. I mean, I've got to be honest anyway. I mean, you can go back on the Coral TV archives and hear me tip up into Milan at 14-1 months ago. I always felt that the winner of the Champions League was coming on that half of the draw. Barcelona and Inter, I thought would be the key game. And two phenomenal games, by the way. My word, they were an absolute joy. But I always thought the winner was coming from that end of the draw. But yeah, I didn't see the confidence around Arsenal. But they're still a very good side. Sunday's going to be incredibly difficult.
Oh,
Incredibly
100%.
difficult.
But they are on a bad run of form. I mean, 16th of March was the last win.
Yeah, but
Since
like we
then.
said there, we're not playing great.
No, not at all. But also, I think we go in with the right mindset. It could actually be a very correct. I'm going to correct myself. That was not their last win. That was Manchester United's last win. Arsenal's last win came against Ipswich on the 20th of April. Since then, they've drawn to Palace, lost to Bournemouth, drawn to Liverpool. But they've drawn a
We
lot
were
of
winning
games.
position against Bournemouth as well. That game was very odd because
Yeah.
Arteta didn't make changes. So that was their strongest side. There's question marks about Declan Rice, I believe, as well, whether he'll be fit after he missed the game against Liverpool at the weekend, which would be a nice little bonus. But yeah, I mean, we can go there with confidence. Absolutely. You can't dispute that. But I don't think it'll be as easy as people are making out.
Oh
We've
no, not at
still,
all.
like this season aside, we've got a horrendous record there. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, a point is neither here or there. It doesn't really affect anything. So, say going into the game saying, "Oh, you take a point," at this stage of the season, a point is kind of meaningless. It's kind of all or nothing now. Um, Pun not intended regarding that show, but yeah, hopefully we can get a win and take advantage of their kind of state, I suppose.
I just want to ask you quickly then about his comments over the weekend, in which he said, against the top six, we haven't lost any single game. So that tells you, as a team, we are
We
very,
have.
very consistent and can compete with anybody.
I mean, two of those top six are currently in 16th and 17th. So that top six narrative just needs to stop. Because the top six is ourselves, who they've lost to three times so far this season in all competitions. What did they do against Villa?
I would
I think Villa got something out of them. I seem to remember the night they played. I'm trying to remember because the night they were playing, I was commentating at Perry Bar Greyhounds, and all the guys were watching on Sky Go. We're watching Arsenal against Villa.
2-2, and they
That was
won.
it. Yes.
They won the other game.
Yeah. So they've dropped points against Villa as well. So yeah, it's kind of a moot point, really.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a little bit of mind games ahead of Sunday, though. Which would be funny if it was, because like it's not like Newcastle United need any encouragement, But if Arteta's idea there was to try and rile Newcastle United's squad up and fans up, then that's just going to backfire, because all that's going to do is feed that kind of fire that they're going to feel on Sunday at the Emirates. And we'll have the match preview later in the week with John Gibson. On to the final discussion point for this week's show then, and it's all about the potential new jersey for next season. It will have the modern day crest on it, not the new one, because that's not going to be in place until the season after next. So
it's going to be the final home shirt with the.
I believe
current
so.
crest
I
on.
believe so. Obviously, that's not been confirmed, and maybe we'll find out a little bit more on Wednesday. But I mean, it goes without saying, it's definitely not going to be on this next season's jersey, because that's already in design. So there's been a few knocking about.
There always is this time of year.
Yeah. There's been a couple that I thought have looked really, really nice, and then there's been one that seems to be the one without having it confirmed and without having any inside knowledge. But I think I've seen one which I believe is probably going to be the closest to it. But we'll start with this one that I put on the screen. Now, this one, Sam, I'm sure you've seen, caused a lot of people weren't a fan of this one, essentially, because the black and white stripes kind of fade, as you can see there.
Yeah,
on the
I mean,
screen.
people weren't a fan of this one because it's absolutely awful.
See, I didn't mind it.
Oh,
I didn't mind it.
The best bit of that shirt is the hand covering it up.
I'm sure Salah would disagree. But I didn't mind it. I thought it was a little bit different. There's not much you can do with black and white stripes. It was a little bit different, but I seem to be in the minority when it comes to this one.
I mean, half them stripes aren't black; they're grey.
Yeah, well, for those listening, it's okay, for those listening, 3 black stripes to begin with, but as you go further down, they kind of fade into more. Sam says grey, I'll say white, and then obviously you've got 2 white stripes in the middle. I thought it looked quite fancy, but people weren't a fan of it. Then I saw this one, which I absolutely loved. Sam, just explain to our listeners what we can see on the screen.
It looks like the Castor shirt from a couple of seasons ago, but with gold trimming around the arms and neck, and the Adidas trefoil logo in gold as well. I think that'll be some kind of special edition shirt potentially, and I think it looks nice.
So you're saying
that's not going to be the kit, by the way, because
no, that's not going to be a kit. It's just obviously
no seller,
one that has been doing the
go
rounds. So you're saying it looks like the 23-24 home kit? Is that the one you're saying it looks like?
Something like it looks Castori to me.
I don't agree. I think that looks much better than anything Castor produced. It looks
Castor aren't here to defend themselves, though.
Yes, good point. I mean, obviously the sleeves are much different to that jersey that Castor produced 23-24. I think this is a really nice one. If that is some sort of retro one that's released next season, I'll be all over that. It's a really nice design. The gold kind of trim just adds something a little bit different to it. So really, really nice.
It's very classy.
But this is the one that is doing the rounds, and this is the one which I think probably will be the new kit again, not having it confirmed. I've got to say, I don't like it.
Oh, I don't mind it.
So again, I'll just explain it for our listeners. You have got 3 black stripes. You've got 4 white stripes. 2 black stripes running down a white sleeve. You've got a black collar with a blue trim running halfway down it, and then there's a blue trim kind of running along the outskirts of the shirt, around the bottom of the sleeve, and then kind of around the body section of this shirt. The blue for me, God, please no. Just no.
You're not a fan of a bit of blue?
I'm not a fan of the blue on this. Not at all.
Good. I don't mind it. I quite like it. Just gives it a bit of an extra outline. I don't mind that at all. The badge looks like it's been easily reproduced, which is good. But yeah, I don't mind the kind of blue trim. I think it's similar to one we had around about 06, but the trim wasn't blue. It was that goldy kind of colour. If you think back to that Shearer's final season, but yeah, and there is a kind of element of faded stripes as opposed to just kind of bordered stripes, isn't there?
Yeah,
but I quite like it.
The faded stripes don't sit right with me. It's like my vision's gone all funny.
Yeah.
I think the stripes on that one look worse than the first one I put up on the screen, where they faded in dots as we got further down the shirt. Here, they're fading on the sides from top to bottom. It doesn't sit right with me. And then on with the blue trim as well. I think the blue's too light for me.
Potentially.
I think
It
if it's a
does.
darker blue, you might get away with it. But even then, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
There
No,
have
I mean,
been many a home shirt in the past that have had blue trim though. Many,
um,
many home kits that have had blue trim down the years. So I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. But I mean, these photographs aren't brilliant, so they might look a bit different in the flesh and look a bit better than what they
oh
do.
yeah.
Um,
Until you get your hands on them, you just never know. And of course, we haven't got any confirmation of what it will look like. We imagine we'll get confirmation in the next few weeks, so because they usually do release them, or at least tell you when they're going to be on sale after the season has ended. So I don't think
with
we'll be
some
too
kind of
far away.
epic trailer again, I hope. Which
Yeah.
which was quite funny actually. I forgot to mention down at Brighton away, I ran into Dan Emerson, who directed the advert for the home kit for this current season as well. So it's great to pop it to run into Dan there, and it was a very epic advert trailer, epic cinema that it was. But yeah, hopefully we get something similar because that's the stuff we lap up.
It certainly is. So we will wait some news on the new strip for Newcastle United, which of course they will wear next season, hopefully in the Champions League. But thanks to Sam for sparing more than an hour coming on to talk about all things football and a heavily weighted show towards Newcastle United. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks to NordVPN and thanks to Crown Trade for their sponsor of the show as well. Thank you to you guys once again. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, get into the comments. I'll get back to each and every single one of you. Do get in touch on social media as well. Myself and Sam will be back next week, hopefully celebrating all 3 points against Arsenal, and we can have a nice, relaxed final day of the season. But
That
this
would be
is
nice.
Newcastle United we're talking about, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But for now, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you guys very, very soon.